Good day and welcome to Agenda. Sitting in for Cito Beltran, I'm Danie Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Now for today's starter quote, don't forget how badly you once wanted what you have right now. Now let's take a quick look at the front page of the Philippine Star. The Philippines and Australia are staging its first ever bilateral amphibious exercise. It will involve training on assaults against hostile onshore targets as a way to respond to shared security challenges in the Indo-Pacific region. Around 2,000 soldiers and sailors are attending this exercise. The Agriculture Department is set to inspect rice warehouses amid allegations of stock manipulation. Officials suspect that this hoarding is being used to justify the spike in retail prices. We will discuss more about that matter with our guest later today. Now, speaking of increases, there will be further hikes in oil pump prices effective today. Numerous oil companies have announced increases of 1 peso and 90 centavos per liter for gasoline and 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter for diesel, as well as 2 pesos and 50 centavos per liter for kerosene. And a study by cybersecurity firm Kaspersky found out that the Philippines and Indonesia are tied for the highest number of Android users who rely on their phones for mobile payments. This further shows that Southeast Asia continues to be a fast-growing mobile wallet market. Now, can the revised K-10 curriculum address the issues hounding the education sector? Let's watch this.
Amid the reported education crisis in the country, the Education Department recently launched the revised K-10 curriculum. Under the new curriculum dubbed as Matatag, the 7 subjects previously taught in grades 1 and 2 will be cut to 5. These subjects are language, reading and literacy, mathematics, makabansa, and GMRC or good manners and right conduct. There will no longer be a separate mother tongue subject, but it will still be used as a mode of instruction. DepEd also said that it will add subjects gradually as the level of students goes up. For one, the language subject in grade 1 will be replaced with Filipino. Grade 3 students will also have 6 subjects with the addition of science. 4th graders will have to take 8 subjects: Filipino, English, mathematics, science, araling panlipunan, technology and livelihood education, MAPE, and GMRC. Those in kinder will have a play-based type of curriculum, which means no particular subjects will be taught. DepEd says it is hoping to strengthen the quality of education in the country with this launch. But the question stands, will this address the issues hounding the education sector? Let's find out on today's agenda.
Diane Fajardo is the Deputy Executive Director of Philippine Business for Education, an education advocacy group led by some of the country's top business leaders. Prior to this, Fajardo worked at the United Nations Environment Program as a research consultant. Fajardo obtained her master's degree in public policy from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy in Singapore.
Now let's bring in our first guest for today, Philippine Business for Education Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Diane Fajardo. Good day, Ms. Diane.
Good morning, Danie.
Diane, now we've seen this new revised K-10 curriculum. Of course, I don't know where to start with the issues hounding the education sector, but tell us, how, if so, can this address and which particular issues might this solve?
So we are very hopeful that the Matatag curriculum or the revised K-10 curriculum will really help decongest the curriculum and solve one of our biggest problems, which is reading or the lack of it, or the reading skills of our children. Because especially for kinders 1 to 3, the curriculum is decongested and learning competencies were deloaded. So actually, compared to the last curriculum, or the Matatag curriculum is 70% less. It has 70% less learning competencies. So it's really, the reduction is really big. And with that, we know that the students can learn and focus on reading more.
Okay, so less is more is the name of the game here, no? But you mentioned reading as a key issue. What is the main issue here with reading? Why has this been the case? Why are our learners way behind in reading? And you from the private sector as well, the business sector, how does that manifest itself when people graduate?
Yeah, so based on international assessments, especially PISA 2018, so this was pre-pandemic, we are last in reading out of around 70 plus countries. And then a World Bank study also showed that we have 91% learning poverty, which means
Okay.
10 years old cannot read simple text. So it's really bad, and it will and given the culture of mass promotion that's been happening for decades now, it has translated to the lack of life skills, communication skills, and just comprehension of our workforce. So it's really affecting our workforce and economy.
Okay. Now, how soon, no? Because, of course, this is a program that's from kinder all the way until graduation, and you need to sow the seeds. How soon, I mean, if somebody is already graduating, will there be some benefits if this will be implemented right now when this person graduates? Or how soon do you think this effects of the new curriculum can be seen?
So curriculum reforms takes decades of
Have to start
before
sometime.
before
Yeah.
before we see its fruits and its promises. So like the K to 12, no. Actually, the first graduates of K to 12, the batch that started kinder to senior high school will graduate next year, and we can only assess that next year or in the next 2 years. So I think it's really important that we do solutions now, and at the same time also provide remediation at the same time, improve the implementation of the current curriculum. So for example, this matatag K to 10 revised curriculum is sowing the seeds, no? But for example, for senior high school and those who are in junior high school, and those students who will not be affected by the matatag curriculum, since only next year that this matatag curriculum will be implemented in grades 1, 4, and 7. So there are a lot of grade levels that will not experience the matatag curriculum. So it's also right that we fix the implementation issues of the current curriculum while also improving the succeeding years of the curriculum.
Okay, so one step at a time, no? I mean, while we're transitioning, we also need to strengthen the current curriculum. What determinants are you looking at for success to say it was worth it to change, to do this overhaul, compared to before? And how can we measure the difference in curriculum and how this impacts reading? It's very, especially in the different phases of a child's life.
I think what's important is that we establish a solid and independent assessment agency first. This
Okay.
has been the call of PBEd years ago, that we need an assessment agency. Since DepEd is the one delivering the service, it cannot assess itself. So, and then for the longest time, we've seen NAT results being released not in a timely manner, or not conducted annually.
Okay.
So we really need to assess what's the reform. And sabi nga nila, if you want to measure change, don't change the measure. But what's happening is that we keep on changing the measure, so we can't measure change. So first we really need to establish an independent assessment agency that will really track the progress of our learners.
And you're part of an advocacy that is pushing for that, no? But what do you suggest? What do you suggest? Now you're on the show. What do you suggest to the Department of Education? Which type of groups are best positioned to do this type of work to measure the success? If you're saying that it should be external, it shouldn't be the government assessing itself.
Actually, we have no particular group in mind yet, but we really need to build up the capacity of our researchers, of our academe, So
Right.
regardless
Tama.
if the Bureau of Assessments will be taken out of the department, or will have like like a private partner, public-private partnership, wherein we're also involving academia. I don't know. Like, we still don't know the actual model, but definitely we really need to focus on assessments.
How much should we care about, let's say, employability, diba? Like skills that are needed in business right now versus fundamental learning, and just, it doesn't matter what job you get, basta you're able to read properly, you're able to do maths, you're able to do logics. How can we balance those two things? Because in a short-term way, you want skills right away when you graduate, and then it might impact nga the basic learning that we've been struggling with.
I think they're not mutually exclusive. So reading, writing, arithmetic, these are the foundational skills, and they scaffold to higher order thinking skills, which we need in the workplace. And actually, based on a study we did around 5 years ago, around 93% of technical skills are covered by the curriculum. However, what the business sector is looking for are the essential skills or life skills. So these are communication skills, grit, resilience, cooperation, etc. And those skills are, I mean, it cannot be taught, diba, in the four sides of the classrooms, but we need to integrate that. And actually, with the Matatag curriculum somehow addresses that with GMRC, Makabansa, etc. So we're hopeful that the curriculum embeds those life skills, and at the same time the teachers can really focus on teaching, because even though we deload the curriculum, if the teachers are still overloaded, they still don't have time to teach these subjects.
Okay, that's something I want to ask and focus on. No? You're saying, as Filipinos, the students, kasi we export so many technical people, diba? We're brain drained nga. We have people in the likes of Singapore with IT jobs, in the Middle East with very technical skills. So you're saying these aren't necessarily lacking, but it's more of, softer skills, communication that we lack. Is this the case? And like you said, I mean, how can we teach that? And depende ba yun sa curriculum? Will a curriculum really address soft skills?
So first the technical skills, it's not lacking, but it needs improvement.
Okay.
So for senior high school, what we're pushing for is work-based training, because it really showed, based on our programs, that it really increased the employability of our youth, to at least 70%.
Okay.
When they train in the company. So that's one thing. And then for communication skills, curriculum is just one part of the solution, but we also have teachers, and then we also have the role of parents in teaching these skills. So talaga, tulong-tulong. So not just a curriculum, so teachers too, because as I've said, if the curriculum is deloaded, but the teachers are still overloaded with administrative tasks, they don't have time to really focus on the children. And then of course there's also the side of the family or the parents, wherein they also need to be involved in teaching these life skills to their children.
Have you spoken to some teachers on this curriculum and asked whether they prefer this, that it's less, but again, another adjustment, another change in how they've been doing and preparing things? We just came from hybrid learning, we just came from so many changes, and then yet again, something completely new? Or are they happy with this? Nasabi mo nga it should reduce the workload.
So when the Matatag K-10 curriculum was released for comments and consultations last May, we talked to a small group of teachers and principals and other stakeholders. Actually, based on their feedback, they don't really care much on the curriculum. Not really care.
Yeah, but it's not a major
they're
issue.
not that worried. Yeah, they're not that worried with the revised curriculum, but they're worried with the implementation of the curriculum, because what happened when we had the K-12, the training of the teachers were rushed, and the training of trainers and training of teachers were so it was rushed,
Right.
and they didn't have time to really grasp the idea, and some of actually in some schools they still don't have the resources, so they're really quite concerned of the implementation.
So improvement is welcome and change is welcome, but it's more how is this change going to be implemented for an effective way, for especially for our
Yeah.
teachers, which are going through a lot. Okay, we'll get back to you, but first let's take a short break. So keep it here on Agenda, all sides, all the time. Welcome back to Agenda. I'm Danie Laurel. Now still with us is the Philippine Business for Education Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Diane Fajardo. Welcome back, Diane. Now, we were talking before the gap, the break, on the fact that teachers are open to the change in this K-12 towards K-10 curriculum, but are, of course, worried about how this would be implemented. No, I wanted to zero in on that. Were any of the teacher groups, were you guys consulted during these 2 years of what Secretary Duterte said, consultation meetings with stakeholders? Were there people really involved in changing this curriculum?
So we didn't consult teacher groups. We just consulted individuals during the period for comments last May. But I think the Department of Education consulted teacher groups and academic experts in revising the curriculum. Actually, assessment curriculum and technology research center of the University of the Philippines was also involved in making the curriculum guides and some other aspects of the Matatag curriculum, as well as actually and the curriculum and the undersecretary for curriculum and teaching used to be from PNU, and she headed the research center for teacher quality. So we are confident that the technical experts really thought this through, and
Okay.
the curriculum is sound. So what and just based on our consultations, our concern is more on the practical side, which is the implementation. And the teachers are saying that they need more time to learn, and the department should ensure that the learning resources will be there once it's implemented.
Okay, I asked that, Diane, because I actually had ACT on our show, ACT Philippines, and they actually mentioned that they were not consulted during this process. That's why I'm really wondering how, how it was chosen, who were consulted. But you did mention that you're very confident in terms of the technical aspects of this. Now let's go back to the issue of implementation. We come off of blended learning. What are the teachers saying about this? Is this something that can be merged with the new curriculum? Should blended learning be continued? Was it positive for development? Or now that we're back to normal, hopefully we don't need to shut down schools anymore, the more effective way to implement this new curriculum is really just face-to-face?
I think blended learning can only work in context-specific scenarios, right? So if the student or if the household has good internet connection and they have the equipment, blended learning may work. May work. Yes, may work, because you also need to consider the learning environment, the support system of the parents or the family. So it really varies, and sadly, most of our students in the public schools don't have that kind of environment or resources. So we really need to be flexible in terms of doing blended learning for the children. And actually, based on our project in Cebu, wherein we did a super gamified learning app for
Right.
reading and math remediation, the students prefer blended learning if they have the equipment, if they have the
Okay.
app, and if they have the support system of the parents and and tutors. So yeah, I think blended learning may work given the support, given various supports from the school, from the local government, and from their families.
In terms of employability, have you seen an impact on this type of learning? What do you prefer in the business sector to see? Is this, if of course, let's say, given that we have the tools, given that we have the infrastructure, is this okay for you guys? Do you see that there's not really a difference between this type of learning and face-to-face? Or are you still pushing for, like you mentioned, we need the soft skills, we need people to be in classrooms to learn different types of ways to deal with each other? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so actually during the pandemic, PBEd was one of the major advocates of going back to face-to-face learning,
Okay.
because we really think that it's more equitable for students to learn that way. For the business sector, so I'm basing this on our youth employability project called
Right.
YouthWorks. So what we did then was we did a blended learning for life skills. So we had mentors doing online tutoring for communication skills, interpersonal skills,
Okay.
professional skills, etc. But when we transitioned them to work-based training, it's really face-to-face. So
Okay.
yeah, parang we need a combination of both for us to really adapt to the pandemic. But now that we're not in the pandemic, face-to-face is really face-to-face is really ideal.
Right.
However, we are aware of the constraints of overcrowding in the classrooms and not enough resources. That's why we're also pushing for an expanded voucher system. So hopefully, we can expand the voucher system in senior high school, not to all the way to kindergarten or even preschool pa nga, so that we can tap the existing infrastructure of the private sector to decongest the classrooms of the public schools.
So, sorry, can you explain a bit more about the voucher system that you're touting?
So the voucher system, it was so it's given to senior high school students, so that they can choose the school where they want to go to, because the government is aware that we don't have enough senior high school facilities. So it's been going on for several years. Mga ano lang, years after the K to 12 system was implemented. So um, numerous studies show that it's really efficient and effective. So we want to expand that to all the way to kindergarten or even in preschool, because there are a lot of private schools who are closing down, and sayang yung facilities nila.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government, I know the government plans to build more classrooms, but if we have existing classrooms in the cities wherein right of way is really difficult to obtain, we think that the expanded voucher system will really work. And there's already a bill in the Congress, and hopefully they can expedite that.
Okay, now we have time for maybe one last question. No? Let's talk about the actual subjects in this new curriculum. You even have the likes of peace education with topics like conflict resolution, human security, community resilience, disaster risk reduction. Given that we need STEM subjects, given that we need very basic maths, very basic English, is there in, and you know, we don't, I'm not sure whether we have the teachers know how to teach conflict resolution, to teach peace resolution. These are subjects that you need to go to do a master's in, you know, globally, just to be able to understand that. Is this something that is feasible, that is more useful to take the time of the teachers in this subject compared to others?
I think given the phased implementation of the curriculum, there is time for teachers to specialize on this subject. But again, it's in the implementation. So for the longest time, even though we only have the basic subjects of math, English, Araling Panlipunan, MAPE, there's already a mismatch of teachers, of the majors of the teachers and the subjects that they're actually teaching. So DepEd should really release a projection of teachers per school or per division, and really identify what kind of majors do they need, so that the teacher schools and also future teachers can also prepare for that. And yeah, I think peace education will be taught in the higher years. So hopefully there's time to specialize, but we agree that we need more time and resources allocated for the foundational skills of reading, math, and writing.
All right. So again, foundational skills, simplification, less is more, decongestion of the classroom into even private facilities that have closed, so that perhaps it's better than just remote learning, which you said is needed for the softer skills as well, in specifically the business sector for employability. Thank you so much.
Loading of the administrative loading of the administrative tasks of teachers.
The administrative tasks of teachers. Quite a high bar there to be implementing for this academic year, but let's see and cross fingers for that. Thank you so much, Diane Fajardo of the Philippine Business for Education, or PBEd. Agenda will be right back. Keep it here on One News, all sides, all the time.
39 days. That's how long the country's rice inventory will last, according to former Agriculture Secretary Leonardo Montemayor. He warns if the needed volume of grains will not arrive before the next harvest in October, the country will experience rice shortage. Meanwhile, the Federation of Free Farmers National Manager Raul Montemayor said it does not help that the country will experience water shortage for irrigation because of the El Niño phenomenon. Because of these reasons, he expressed his fear of the repeat of the 2018 rice crisis and the possibility of surpassing the high prices of rice during the difficult times of 1998 for the industry. How can the Marcos administration prevent this? Let's discuss this on today's agenda.
Raul Montemayor is the national manager of the Federation of Free Farmers Cooperatives Incorporated, a nationwide federation of agricultural cooperatives in the Philippines. Montemayor is also a private sector advisor to the Department of Agriculture.
And you're still watching Agenda here on One News. I'm Danie Laurel. Now let's further discuss the possible rice shortage here in the Philippines with our second guest, Raul Montemayor of the Federation of Free Farmers. Good day, Raul.
Yes, good morning, Dani. Good
morning.
morning sa lahat ng nakikinig.
All right, sir. So we just showed to our viewers here a warning of former Agri Secretary Leonardo Montemayor, 39 days. Your comments on this, sir?
Well, let me explain that. Now, the DA released a report that as of August 1 this year, our stocks were good for 39 days now. And August and September are lean months, meaning there is very little harvest that we get during those 2 months. There is some harvest that comes in late September until the peak harvest comes in October, November. So basically for August and September, we need 60 days of stock to tide us over until the main harvest season. But we have only 39 days according to the DA. So kulang tayo ng 21 days, around 750,000 metric tons yan. There are only 2 possible sources of where we can get this. Number 1 is imports. And number 2 is the early harvests that might come in a little bit August, a little bit in September. Now, so the big question is, can we gather 21 days of stock before the end of September so that we can go over to the peak harvest season in October, November? Now, that is the big question. No? Because right now, the entry of imports is very slow because of the very high prices in the international market. As to early harvests, we have a very little idea of how big is this early harvest and when will it enter the market. So what we are saying is August 1, we had 39 days. By September 1, if nothing else comes in, we will have 9 days left of stock. We need 21 days more.
Sir, are you saying that action should be taken now to import for this, what you say, 60 days of stock, just in case the early harvest doesn't push through? Or should we be doing it, gradually? What's your suggestion here?
Oh, we should have done that yesterday.
Okay.
Because it takes about 3 weeks to 1 month before the imports can come in from the time you negotiate the deal. So pag ngayon ka palang mag-order ng mid-August, darating yan ng mga second week of September. By that time, the situation might be a little bit worse. No?
Okay.
So most of the time, these imports, when NFA was still handling it, they would position the imports as early as July 1.
Okay. And sir, now we have discussions now with Vietnam and India for importations of rice. Are these the 2 countries already enough for this, at least this buffer period until the next harvest?
You mean the 300,000?
Yes,
to
500,000, yes.
Ang kulang natin, 750,000 eh. So although, assuming the 300,000 tons comes in, that will help, but it will still be less than half of what we need now. And the other question is at what price? Because it might also be very expensive.
Do you have other countries you're eyeing? No? So like you mentioned, 300 to 500,000 metric tons from India and Vietnam. This is what Agri-USEC Panganiban is saying the country is eyeing at the moment. How much more and which countries should we be tapping?
Wala na halos, no? Because we get 85% of our imports from Vietnam. We get a little bit from Myanmar, but Myanmar now is higher than Vietnam in terms of price. Thailand also is cutting back on production.
I see.
Because of El Nino. India, nag-ban sila ng export nila, and even if there was no ban, normally we do not buy from India, no? Because the quality of the India rice is different from ours.
What can we do apart from the importation at this point, sir?
Well, look for rice substitutes, encourage rice substitutes, no? A little
Brace
bit more
for it na lang.
discipline. Kamote, saba, whatever, no? Then impose some discipline on how we handle rice. Ang daming nasasayang na bigas. No? We cook a lot and then we throw away part of it because we cook too much, no? So a little bit belt tightening, I think, is in place, no? Kahit na hindi naman tayo mauubusan ng bigas, but we will experience tight supplies until we start harvesting in October. Well, if we can save a little bit more by a little more discipline in how we handle rice, that will help. No? Also reduce expenses for rice, and it will help a lot in the situation.
Okay, but sir, could this problem or the shortage could it have been anticipated? Could it have been avoided? Or is this, hindi naman natin alam the impact of the recent typhoons? There's also climate change issues that are hounding the sector. Or could this actually have been something that we could have prepared for?
The first warning sign was the fact that our carryover stock from 2022, yung naiwan ng 2022 that was carried over into 2023, January 1, was relatively low. No? We used to have about 90 days or more stock by January 1. This year, we had less than 60 days when we started the year. So that was already a warning signal. No? And then yung balita sa El Nino, we already knew it since last year, no, that it will be coming. So as early as April, we were already telling the government to look into this problem and see what could be done. No? Unfortunately, at least from what we perceived, it was business as usual for the Department of Agriculture. They did not acknowledge that there could be a problem. Of course, the India ban, nobody could have predicted that will happen. No? But when we started the lean months in July 1, when we were supposed to normally have 90 days, we had only 60 days stock. No? That would be a problem if imports were coming in regularly. Kasi yung 60 days stock mo, although you have a 90-day lean month period, yung 30-day na kakulangan, that would normally be answered by imports. No? But then we had the India ban, the spike in prices. So kinakapos tayo ngayon.
Okay, so again, partly the ordering process, but also partly unprecedented issues like that India ban, no? And can you comment on just the general global supply of rice? Parang we already implemented, the rice tariffication law, lowered the tariffs for imports. So theoretically, we could buy naman more. But is there really just a shortage in rice now that even regardless of the ordering process being more smooth, wala lang talagang supply?
Sa global market, 90% of the rice that is produced is consumed where it is produced. Only 10% is exported.
Okay.
So it's a relatively thin market, about, I think, 40 million tons. No? And we Philippines, as one of the top importers, accounts for about 10% of that market. No?
Okay.
So there are many buyers but very few suppliers. No? And even when India starts stopping its exports, India accounts for 40% of what is traded internationally. Malaki yun, no? Biglang nawala sa market. That will create a lot of speculation within the rice market. There will be, in effect, a bidding war for the limited supply. No? And that is also affecting us with our purchases of rice from Vietnam.
How far are we from self-sufficiency? We had some statements from the government saying, we shouldn't expect that. We shouldn't expect to never import rice, even if we imagine that the Philippines is a rice-producing country. How far are we, and have we made steps to improve self-sufficiency and reduce reliance on imports?
Unfortunately, we are getting farther away from that kind of target, no? Normally, our deficiency every year is about 15% of what we require in 1 year. So we have to import that 15%. No? It's about 2.5 to 3 million tons that we import, mostly from Vietnam. No? But that shortage is getting bigger over the years, no? Because although our production is increasing a little bit, our population is increasing faster.
Right.
No? So the demand is outstripping the supply. So lalong lumalaki yung ating import requirements. No? And then we get hit by this international crisis. Then we have to buy the rice that we need at a higher price.
Okay, so sir, we'll continue this conversation. Let's just take a short break. We will be back with our guest, Raul Montemayor. Keep it here on Agenda, all sides, all the time. Welcome back to Agenda. I'm Danie Laurel. We're still here with Raul Montemayor, National Manager of the Federation of Free Farmers. Good morning and welcome back, Raul.
Thank you. Good morning again.
Sir, so we were discussing the issue of self-sufficiency before we went on a gap, no? And you mentioned 15% of the requirements of rice are imported. It's increasing due to increasing population. Di na natin kaya. And the ban from India, which is exporting 40% of the needs of rice globally is, of course, putting so much pressure on the stock that we can import. Tell us, in terms of just the productivity of our land and what was accomplished, specifically during the term of the president, who was also at the helm of the Department of Agriculture. Can you see some improvements on this productivity that might lessen our dependency on imports?
There is a slight improvement in productivity, but as I said, it is growing not as fast as production, no? So although there are increments in terms of how much we produce per hectare and how much is the total output, again, our reliance on imports is increasing. No? So kulang yung ating improvements. No? And we are a little bit disappointed because almost 40% of the budget of the Department of Agriculture goes to rice. No? And yet we can show very little in terms of impact from those billions of pesos that are being put into the rice sector.
What can be done further in your opinion, sir? What with this money, billions nga, anong dapat magawa nitong funds?
Well, I think the primary reason why it is not improving very much is that the price factor. No? Because in 2019, we passed the rice tarification law. We opened up our markets to unlimited imports by the private sector. Instead of importing only our 15% deficiency, there were times when we imported double of what we actually needed to import. No? And the result was a drastic drop in palay prices that discouraged a lot of farmers from planting or expanding their production or investing in their farms. No? So although they continue to plant because that is their livelihood, the incremental improvement in their output and yield was very, very little because there was no point in trying to increase your production if the price is very low. You just increase your losses. No? So that is one thing I think that we have to address. How do we calibrate our imports so that we can bring in what we need, but not too much so as to discourage our farmers from continuing their production.
Okay.
And together with that, of course, is the support program. And we have to take a deep look as to what programs are succeeding and what programs are just a waste of money.
Okay. Sir, on the topic of prices, what is causing the prices? You have on the front page of the Philippine Star this morning, the Department of Agriculture will be inspecting the warehouses for hoarding. Is this really what's causing the fluctuation or the exorbitant prices at the moment?
The basic problem is still the tight supply.
Okay.
Yun yung problema. Hindi naman sa kulang absolutely, pero panipis yung supply. And baka photo finish tayo pagdating ng end of September. No? And once you have a situation where supplies are very tight, there is a lot of room for people taking advantage, hoarding, price manipulation, etc. So that is very possible. No? But even the stocks of the cartel and the rice traders are already included in that 39-day computation.
Wow.
No?
Okay.
So kahit na palabasin mo yan, huliin mo sila, ikuan mo yung mga bodega nila, palabasin mo yung bigas, tight supply pa rin ang lalabas. No? Kulang pa rin or baka very tight supply. And it's easy for us to blame the cartel and the traders. But the root cause is the supply problem.
Sir, can you comment on the difference between the retail prices and the farm gate prices? They're saying that it's not the farm gate that has the high prices. It's actually from when it gets from the farm over to the retail, which now can be even as high as 60 pesos per kilo, no, from the 21 that it initiates. So what if you're saying it's not necessarily the cartel, it's the supply, what is causing this very big difference?
Yes. Well, a lot of the palay that was milled into rice and what we're buying now, they were bought from farmers during the last harvest season noong April, May at around 20 to 23 pesos per kilo. no?
Okay.
And that should translate to about 45 pesos per kilo in the market, no? But now we're seeing 50 and sometimes even more than 50, no? So what is happening now is the pala is already out of the hands of farmers. They are now in the middle of the production period, no? So most of the remaining pala is in the hands of traders who bought from the farmers last April and May, no? And they bought at 23. Now they're trying to sell at 34 for a jackpot or quick profit, no? Ganun ang negosyante, no? If they can sell at a higher price, why not, no? And they can do that, again, because there is tight supply. The people who are milling and selling rice are in need of supplies somewhat desperately, so they are willing to buy from these traders at relatively high price, no? So you can say the farmers are not benefiting, yes, no? It's the traders who have palay stocks on hand that are reaping a bonanza, no? But that is their business, no? They buy during harvest time. They try to sell at the highest possible price in the off season. Right now, I think they are testing the waters as to how much they can sell, and before the harvest time comes, no? Try to maximize their profits.
And given this, sir, should there be more regulation on the part of the government regarding the retail prices, at least for this, as you mentioned, 60-day period until we get a better stock?
Ang problema, under the rice tariffication law, the NFA lost almost all of its regulatory powers. No? They cannot even inspect warehouses. They do not have the importers and the traders do not have to get licenses anymore from NFA. So it is very hard. I think right now, even government is at a loss on what is the real situation.
Right.
And of course, they can impose SRPs, yung suggested retail price. No, we'll see. Ang problema, shortage, no. So you might just scare away the traders, no. And then you will have an even bigger supply problem. No? So it is a very somewhat delicate, no? Because the way to cure the tight supply is to introduce more supply. No? Unfortunately, the imports are not coming in.
Do you have visibility, sir, on what you expect the movement of prices will be once we perhaps implement this 300 to 500,000 metric tons of importation from India, from Vietnam? Is this already the highest that we can expect, because we expect some imports to come, and then of course hopefully by October, as you mentioned, there's going to be more supply? Give us an idea of what to expect as consumers.
Yes, well, the entry of the 300,000 tons will reduce prices a bit, no? There were reports that the import price is about 2,400 per sack. No?
Right.
That is about 45 pesos per kilo.
Okay.
Na, mahal pa rin, ha?
Mahal pa rin.
And when you put in tracking and then margins of wholesalers and traders, parang aabot pa rin ng 50 yan, eh. No?
I see. Okay.
But that can last only so long, because by end of September, the new harvest will start to come in. So I think what is happening now is that traders are trying to maximize their profits during the remaining lean months before the new harvests come in. No? That's why there were reports, bababa na daw ang presyo ng bigas, but I listened to the news today, tumaas pa. No?
Oo nga eh.
Kaya ibig sabihin niyan, pumihirit yung mga trader, parang one last attempt to make some more money before the prices start to go down.
All right. So basically, sir, what you're saying, the importation is really just to address the supply, not even for the rising prices. Do you agree with that?
Palagay ko,
Hindi
yes,
naman...
and you know that assuming it's 500,000 tons, we need 750,000 tons, like I said before. Kulang pa rin, eh, no? So even if the cheap imports come in, but they are not enough, you will still have a tight situation in terms of supply that will result in relatively high prices. No? And actually, the 750 tons is the conservative estimate, no? Because we cannot end September with zero stocks. No? We have to have something left, no? Because hindi naman pwedeng absolute zero yung stock natin by September 30. So my feeling is what we actually need to bring into the supply is about 1 million tons. No? So 500,000 tons from Vietnam and India, that's only half.
That's not going to cut it. Finally, sir, may mapapala ba this inspection of the warehouses? What would this bring? What's the positive benefit? Is there going to be more supply because they get the hoarding situation under control? Will it become cheaper? Give us an idea of what is the objective here.
Well, first of all, how do you define hoarding? Because if I'm a businessman, I buy a lot of palay during harvest time, and then I release it gradually to my market. So I have a lot of stocks in my bodega. Is that hoarding? No. Kaya yung mga sinasabi nila noon na hoarding, wala silang nahuhuli. No? It's very hard to prove hoarding. Because it's a nature of the business to stock up during the lean months and gradually release your supply to the market. No? But if they can be encouraged or even pressured to release stocks, no, that will help alleviate the situation. Pero in the end, kulang pa rin yung stock mo. No?
Okay.
So ganun pa rin yung problema. Maybe temporarily, you can bring out those stocks. There will be some reduction in prices. But once the shortage appears, problema na naman.
All right. So parang tighten our belts na muna and lessen consumption.
And hopefully the early harvest comes in early. Yun yung magiging solusyon din.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That has been Raul Montemayor, National Manager of the Federation of Free Farmers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And that's today's agenda. Keep it here on Cignal TV, channels 8 and 250 for the latest news. Sitting in for Sito Beltran, I'm Danie Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time.